Everybody loves to see me at a cocktail party because I'm their favorite person, the neighborhood divorce lawyer. So, we're not going to talk today very much about what you really go through in a divorce, because today our whole concept is what happens to your business and how do you protect your business if you're going through a divorce. So that's what I'm going to tell you, what the lawyer does and a little bit about some of the professionals you need. So if you're married, if you own a business, if you represent people who own businesses, or if you represent executives, you do need to listen to this so that you are able to talk a little bit, at the very least, about what people are going to go through or what to expect. Now, when people come to see me, they have the most wonderful concepts. They tell me everything's going to be easy. And it doesn't always work out that way. How should a divorce actually work? I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and I'm going to start floating through these pages up until 25, which is when we're going to really start talking about the business itself. There should be 3 stages to a divorce action. The first one is stabilization. You know, let's make sure that things are being paid and that we're covering things while we go through the second process. Discovery, what is there? And in the discovery process, you also have the valuation process. Tim knows a little bit about that. And whenever you work with a business owner, okay, you definitely, or the spouse of a business owner, you're going to have a business valued. One thing I want to say, would you agree with me? Never use your company accountant. It just doesn't have the appearance of propriety. It has the very appearance of impropriety. So when we get to the end where I tell you some of the things that you really need to do, you're going to see that in there. We won't have to pop through that then. Finally, you get to the third stage. Either you settle the case or you try the case. So if you get through that, that's pretty terrific. Now, we like to say that we get our cases settled because we're prepared, we're ready to go forward, and truly, people are not happy when they have to go through a trial. They'd much rather go through getting the case settled, because you think a judge is going to be fair, and everybody's concept of fair is a little bit different. So here are some of the things that you have that need to be stabilized. I love the bankruptcy and foreclosure one. In this day and age, it's something that we're seeing a lot more of. There's a disclosure statement. If you go through the following pages, you're going to see this is an actual Cook County disclosure statement. So you need to know what your own expenses are. You're going to need to know something similar. So you can see it starts out with what the court considers to be the most important. Your housing, your food, your electricity, how to keep that stabilized. Then it gets down to transportation. They think that's pretty important. Personal items, they start seeing a lot of what we call flubbing. Perhaps fraud. We're going to have somebody else talk about that. And then we get down to the really fun stuff like miscellaneous items. You know, if you're making $5,000 a month and you have $2,000 of club and entertainment expenses, you're just not credible to the judge. So then they get to the children, and they happen to think items about the children are pretty important. Now, there's a reason this is here. I represent the CEO of a company who was moved up from CFO, Chief Financial Officer. He has an accounting background. He showed me his 2010 tax return, which he filed which he filed as single. He's still married. He's not divorced yet. And I said, "What do you mean you claimed $35,000 in maintenance?" He goes, "Well, you know, my wife and I were separated, so I gave her these payments." I went, "Yeah, well, you do need a CPA because that's not deductible until you have a court order, a written instrument. So please, don't make your own tax decisions. Don't allow your clients to make their own tax decisions." It's amazing what they come up with. There's discovery. That's the process of finding out what there is. What I want to say to you is if there are any CPAs in here, you're one of the first people that finds out that a divorce is going on, and you often get a subpoena. If you are not a person, if you are not a lawyer, I want you to understand this about subpoenas. You can take your time to get your stuff together. You can say, I don't have the time right now. April 1st, sending me a subpoena for all these records just won't work for an accountant. And for any other industry, yeah, you can take your time. No sheriff's going to come to the door. The attorneys won't work with you. You're going to have some time before they go to court and everything gets ordered. So, then there are all sorts of settlements. I wanted you to know a little bit about the law in Illinois. So I've talked a little bit about marital property and what non-marital property is, because we're only dividing up marital property. And let's get to, is it fair? This is one of my favorites too. Brady, IRS, we get them first. Maybe, maybe not. All right, let's talk about what it is that's really important about protecting your business and what you need to do to protect that business. Okay, number one, Chicago is a city of entrepreneurs. We have two, and actually more than two, but two of the greatest business schools in the country. We have Kellogg and we have the University of Chicago. So we turn out a lot of people who start their own businesses. We turn out a lot of high-level executives that go around the country. There are a lot of you here who have started your own business. Melanie? So you, myself, many of us sitting here. So what do you need to do? I cannot tell you how many times I see business owners who don't have their business records in order. I don't know what you think this is, but having a business means getting your business records in order. My firm is a corporation. That's because I'm so good at my own advice that when I was doing this as a sole proprietorship, I would get to my quarterly times for taxes and I'd go, I don't know how much I've taken, I don't know what I owe. And it just didn't work for me, so it worked better to do it in a much more organized fashion. Make sure that you or your clients have their business records and have the supporting documents to back it up. With computers today, it is not that hard. QuickBooks, honestly, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So there's all sorts of things to do that, to get yourself in order. The next thing, when you go, let me just tell you that, as Tim will tell you, the first thing he's going to do when he
my name's Craig.
Craig, I'm sorry. The first thing that he's going to do is he's going to go through your business records and see, did you make any capital improvements? And he's going to say, well, I have to make this balance sheet more representative of what's real. But if I'm representing you, or if somebody good is representing you, I'm going to say, God willing, you have cash in a business. Do your improvements, do your leasehold improvements, do your updates of equipment, buy your equipment. This past year was great. You had a massive amount of deductions for buying equipment. Do the things you need to do to make sure your business is up to date so it's done and the cash isn't there. It's going to have lots of fun with cash in a business. Repair the building. All right. One of the most interesting items that you're going to have going on is the people who don't separate their personal items from their business items. I just had a lawyer, of course, give me his tax return. He shows $800,000 of gross receipts and zero income. Now, just because he paid his girlfriend's expenses, her rent out of there, just because he paid his boat expenses out of there, just because he paid his condo in Florida out of there, for some reason he thinks I'm stupid. Maybe I look that way, but it didn't look that way to the judge. Okay, so all of that is actually income. And I also represented a client who, all right, so he bought his girlfriend a $16,000 diamond necklace. Okay? He said, well, I wanted her to date me. We had to make a list of, said I didn't know it cost $16,000 to get a date, but that was me. So we made a list of what's called dissipation. So you have to start adding things like that back into income. Even when you buy your son a car, you're still going to have to pay child support. But Judge, I don't have any money left. Yes, well, we're going to consider that car as your income. So again, have your receipts if you're taking out expenses for cash items. Actually, the IRS tells you you're supposed to. Not many people do. I just tell you to be a fanatic about it. Because they will climb up and down and inside and outside of you in divorce court. Now, one of the most important things to do when you're going through a business valuation is to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. Okay? When do you hire Craig? Or if I change his name, Tim. Okay. You hire him.
So he's writing the check.
Yeah. No, once the check clears.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's what I see lawyers do that I think is a terrible mistake. They go, all right, well, we'll get the business valuator and they'll just figure this out. No. You have to work with somebody who knows what's going on. Your lawyer should be setting your standards and what your issues are. Okay? For instance, in the business that Craig's evaluating, he's going to want to understand, is this personal goodwill or is it enterprise goodwill? In Illinois, personal goodwill has no value. In other words, is Joy Feinberg the greatest divorce lawyer in the world? Yes. Okay. But do the money that I make, is that what everybody makes? No. Is it because she's so fabulous? Absolutely. You have to figure out what you are saying about your business owner. Are we saying that anybody could do this? If I say that, then I only have enterprise goodwill and my spouse is going to share that with me. If there's something unique about me, then you don't share that value because that's personal goodwill. Illinois doesn't do that. So it's just, there are many examples of what you have to work with. And so what I do in a case, and what everybody should do, is you meet with Craig. You sit down as the lawyer and your client, and you try and assess, what's this business? What are the issues that we're going to find? Is there an industry standard of value? For instance, okay, my client owns car washes. Okay? Is there an industry standard of value? Yes. My client owns laundry facilities around the city and claims he makes no money. What is Craig going to say? He's going to say, yeah, let me see how much detergent you sell. We need to see what those records show. And he's going to say, this is what you're actually making, and this is how they're going to find out about it, so don't try that with me. So if the lawyer doesn't know that, your expert will know that. Actually, we wouldn't work with that person because they would say he had no money to pay us. But you need to know what your unique standards of value are. And there are industries that have very unique standards. In the early 90s, boy, they were selling CPA practices for 2 or 3 times gross receipts. What could you get today?
You're lucky if you want to.
Yeah, really lucky. Okay, so number 9, I talked to you about plan out where you want to go. That is the most important thing that you can do for your client anywhere. The business attorney can work with the divorce lawyer and the professional evaluation person and deal with that. Now, let's say we have a business where the executive is being compensated well, God willing, they're all being compensated, but the president is receiving X amount of dollars. Now, there's a trend that has been going on for the last 5 to 6 years in valuation about whether or not a CPA or whether or not you need a separate expert to come in and tell you what the real income should be if you're going to make an adjustment on the balance sheet to the executive's earnings. So you have to be aware of that, and if you're going to try and do that, you have to figure out, where do we go? What is our state law on this? What's the trend? What do we want to see? Special issues in a special case. Okay. What other things? This is something I see all the time. There are probably 4 or 5 business valuation people who just do this work all the time. And they go, oh, you know me, I'll just go in and talk to the people. I had a guy come see me. In his estimation, his companies are worth $30 million. That's not going to be the wife's estimation. His attorney has allowed the wife's evaluator to go in, talk to anybody, and they have no idea what's being said. So if you know anybody who owns a business, you should be saying to them, as the genius that you are at the cocktail party, for God's sakes, what's going on? You should never let the other side's expert into your business without your own evaluator being there. Now, the great thing about representing the business owner is that you don't see a thing as the evaluator. You want to see what questions the other side is asking. You can understand where they're headed, and now you plan what's our counterattack, and we can talk to anybody we want to. Put that in the report, and they don't have it. So expert reports are usually exchanged simultaneously. As a business owner, you have much more control over the time that you have. For the business owner, I want to tell you, don't puff. That's, you know, what happens is, I'm thinking of one evaluator in particular, he comes in and he just lets the business evaluator, just let the business owner start telling how great that person is. And then you want to say more. And I thought of this, and I did this, and I'm great because of this. It's not what you want in divorce court. Okay? So I want you to always remember this whole item. Everything that's bad for you is great for your divorce lawyer and your divorce case. So don't make yourself out to be a god. We don't want you to be that way. Except in certain cases where we want to say everything rests on you and you're unique and nobody else could do this. I do want you to point out problems. Okay? Every little complaint. Because when you go through a business evaluation, if you're the business owner and you say, you know, I'm the only person here that can make decisions. The fact that there's no staff behind you is something that the evaluator is going to consider in lowering the value of your business. And just like in probate, you want the lowest value of your business when you're going through divorce. Be prepared by an expert. We've talked about that. I'm going to do number 15 first. Everybody wants to talk to their spouses, and that's good. It's just that you don't have to tell them everything wonderful, okay, about what's going on with your business. I'm not telling you to lie to your spouse. I'm just saying that people know they're getting divorced at least 2 years before they ever come to see me. And why you have to tell your spouse you just got Target as a customer right before the divorce is filed is really not the best thing in the world. So when your antenna starts going up, talk about your problems at work. Don't talk about your successes. Finally, I am now doing a mediation in a case where the parties during the marriage transferred $150 million of assets into irrevocable trusts. Okay? That stuff is gone. It is out of the marital estate. The wife's a little upset about this. Okay? She says, wait a minute. I really liked flying on private jets. And honestly, if you've ever done it, I've done it once, I understand that. I feel her pain. But, you know, she's going to be living without them because this estate only has income coming in and 2 $4 million houses. I know it's going to be tough for her, okay? But that $150 million is gone, and there is no way to bring it back. So one of the things that you might want to do is consider trust as an avenue when you get into this large range. So those are some of the things that you should think about when you're a business owner going through a divorce, representing a business owner that's going through a divorce, or at a cocktail party so that you can talk about a subject that everybody wants to talk about, your divorce. Thank you. If you have any questions, I can try and answer them if I have any time. I have 1 minute. This has never happened in history of the universe. Yes.
Can you have in a prenuptial that that my spouse would sign off on the business prior to marriage?
You can have anything you want in a prenup, okay? And that's another good thing. Most people start their businesses during marriage, so that's not gonna be signed off. But when you're going through a second marriage, third marriage, whatever, you can say none of the income represents marital property. These assets don't represent marital property. You're not gonna get any part of the retirement benefits, okay? Now, if you do that with the retirement benefit, you have to sign something again right after marriage. I've done a few prenups, and then they see me after the wedding, and I get these looks like, now you have to sign this because ERISA, which is federal legislation, says there's nothing valid about a prenuptial to us unless it's signed once you have the right, once you're married. So yeah, you can. Illinois is one of the states that has a Uniform Premarital Agreement Act. These are valid, they are upheld, okay, and they are something that Midwesterners are no longer afraid to use. When I started practicing, in the last century or two, Midwesterners were really opposed to prenups, but they are valid and they are upheld. Thank you.